So let's go ahead and address another one of the diet dogmas. And remember, the complete book will be coming out soon. And so when we start talking about diet dogmas, what we're really talking about is a bunch of dietary styles that take on kind of a marketing ploy, a fad ploy that has an us versus them, a secular versus a kind of group thought or group think within it that leads to a host of various types of inclusions and exclusions that we can think about in terms of a religious fervor. One such is the carnivore diet. The carnivore diet is really just a rebirth of the very first fad diets that we had. Fad diets that can somehow cure a whole bunch of various types of health ailments that we might face. A very snake oilish style of positioning. So the carnivore diet, what is it, what it isn't, and should I be using it? Well, let's talk about that.
Warning. The following presentation contains information that might contradict what you have previously heard, or believed to be true, about how the human body works, and contains material that is not suitable for closed-minded individuals. Enjoy!
And so we start looking at the carnivore diet. A lot of the proponents of the carnivore diet are those of the gym bros, those that say, oh, let's eat our protein shakes, let's eat our steak, let's eat our eggs, and let's not eat any of the sugars, any of the refined products that we might find within a lot of our diets. A lot of diets that have been attributed to a lot of the health issues that we have seen on the rise over the last half century. A lot of the fast food stuff that seems to lead to a lot of the obesity issues, a lot of the overfatness issues that scare us when we start looking at healthcare and the costs of keeping ourselves healthy. We start looking at the proponents of the carnivore diets. It's all about, oh, we can go ahead and rebalance our metabolic health. We can lose weight. With some of the proponents indicating that this weight loss can be excessively rapid, which in itself is true, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But how safe is it? What is the science behind the proponents for using this carnivore diet? This diet where we are simply eating nothing but meats and excluding all of the sugars within the diet, all of the vegetables within the diet. If we start looking at changes within systems, there is no direct evidence to support the use of the carnivore diet for neurological health, even though there are some antidotes out there. However, we do note that there is a change in food drive leading to greater amounts of satiety, where I am feeling full for longer periods of time by utilizing a carnivore style diet. We do see an increase in metabolic flexibility, an increase in insulin sensitivity, an increase in lipid breakdown, lipolysis, as well as an increase in anabolism, growth of muscle and bone tissue, utilizing a carnivore diet if we use it with exercise, particularly exercise in the hypertrophy zone for resistance training. There's no direct evidence, although there are a lot of antidotes out there, that it's going to provide any type of benefit to cardiovascular health. There is a change in lipid profile, so we'll get to what those changes are here in a second. And there's a change in fatty acid depositing within the cardiac muscle of the heart. The change in lipid profiles is not always going to be beneficial changes in lipid profiles or changes in cholesterol with indications for an increase in total cholesterol following a carnivore diet. In terms of adipose tissue, there is increase in insulin sensitivity. There's an increase in lipolysis, the breakdown of lipids. There's a change in adipokine signaling and a change in macrophage signaling that can lead to a reduction in overall inflammation. This change that we see in the musculoskeletal system, the changes that we see within the adipose tissue, is where the largest amount of evidence we have for utilizing a carnivore diet comes into play. However, there are various limitations to this carnivore diet. In terms of our glucose metabolism, there is normalization of insulin and glucagon signaling coming about from carnivore dieting. In terms of liver functions, there's increase in ketone formations. There's an increase in insulin sensitivity. There's an increase in gluconeogenesis. That's the making of glucose from glucose metabolites that are coming about from the fats that are being broken down. and amino acids that are available to the liver. There's a change in fatty acid depositing, very similar to the changes in fatty acid deposit we see within the cardiac muscle, as well as in the musculoskeletal system. We're going to start seeing a reduction in fatty acid depositing that can lead to resolutions of non-alcoholic fatty acid liver issues. There is an increase in urea formation and an increase in ammonia formation coming away from the liver due to increases in amino acid metabolism and protein breakdown taking place within the liver so as to meet energetic requirements and fuel sources through the process of gluconeogenesis, deamination, and transamination taking place within the liver to allow for ketone formations to take place. Now, most of the benefits that we see coming away from the literature is coming away from an extrapolation of keto diets and keto diet research, not necessarily coming away from carnivore diet styles, which means that if we're starting to indicate benefits coming away from the carnivore diet, it's really more benefits that we see coming away from a ketone diet or a ketogenic diet more than a carnivore diet. This is where we have to look at the different styles of ketogenic diets that take place. And what we're simply doing is we're simply going to an extreme in the ketogenic diet, which is why we do see rapid weight loss. And the reason why we see rapid weight loss is because of what we eat and what we don't eat more than the benefits of the diet itself. It's why we can see rapid changes in insulin sensitivity and changes in diabetic indices for people who are pre-diabetic or people who are type 2 diabetic following a carnivore diet. But once again, it's not necessarily due to the carnivore diet itself, more to the fact that we are changing metabolism, very similar to what we see in terms of changes in metabolism from the keto diet. So we have that kind of caveat here in terms of the carnivore diet, which has us wondering, is it really that good for us? Is it really that much of a healthier diet for us to follow, given the fact that we're limiting the intake of certain types of foods that we absolutely need in order to maintain gastrointestinal health, as well as maintain normal metabolic functions? And so we do have some studies that indicate that there are some benefits following a carnivore diet, and the carnivore diet is able to meet some of our nutrient needs. However, we have to remember is that what are we going to eat on a carnivore diet? Well, we're going to eat things like animal meat, animal-based proteins, animal fats, and low lactose dairy. What are we not going to be eating? What are we going to avoid? Vegetables, fruits, high lactose dairy, legumes, nuts, seeds, grains, alcohol, sugars, and beverages other than water, which can include things like tea and coffee, depending upon how strict you want to be within your carnivore diet. That also includes all of the energy drinks that people like to use and all of the pre-workout supplements that a lot of people like to use. So what are some of the deficits? What some of the drawbacks that we might see within following a carnivore diet? So just like with everything else, we have to worry about deficiencies. And with the carnivore diet, we're going to see excess in the deficiencies. The excess in the deficiencies is why we might see rapid weight loss. Now, rapid weight loss itself is not a very healthy thing to use or a healthy goal to have. The deficiencies that we can see within following a carnivore diet include antioxidant deficiencies, fiber deficiencies, vitamin B deficiencies, vitamin C deficiencies, vitamin D deficiencies. We can see electrolyte deficiencies, calcium, chloride, iron, iodine, magnesium, potassium, selenium, and sodium, just to name a few. We can have excessive psychological drive for food, leading to based on and coming away from and leading to the idea of good and bad foods, based on the premise that I'm only going to be eating animal product foods, no fruits, no vegetables, no colors whatsoever in my food. Very little salt can come into the foods depending upon how you go about doing your seasoning. Very little sugar can come in to the diet, meaning that we're highly reliant upon gluconeogenesis in order to meet the glucose needs, which means we're going to have hypoglycemic events. And those hypoglycemic events can lead to distinct drives for food. Coming away from a carnivore diet, we can have excessive overconsumption of food, simply due to the need to establish a reward and bliss point response to eating. We can have diet-induced metabolic acidosis because of extreme ketone and ketogenic formations taking place within our metabolism. We can have gastrointestinal issues. While there is some indication of relieving issues such as irritable bowel issues coming away from the use of the carnivore diet, the fact that we have very low fiber and residual fiber can have issues with our microbiome. Because of the high amounts of animal product being eaten and animal fat being used, we're going to have issues with saturated fats. We're going to have issues with our relationship between our polyunsaturated fat and our monounsaturated fat intake. We're going to have issues with our ratios of omega-3s and omega-6s, which can lead to inflammation issues, as well as the inability to form some hormones. We're going to have altered fat metabolism and fat absorption. We're going to have altered cholesterol metabolism, which can lead to an increase in blood lipid profiles, which is why we have that change in blood lipid profiles, but not necessarily a reduction in blood lipids or cholesterol. There's indication for increase in LDL with very little change in HDL for people who follow carnivore diets, as well as an increase in total levels of triglyceride circulations for people who follow a carnivore diet relative to somebody who's following a simple ketogenic diet, or people who follow the normal standard quote unquote healthy eating diet. Now, we used to think that having high protein meals would lead to kidney issues. There is some indication for people who have kidney issues and are predisposed to kidney issues to have altered kidney function following a high protein diet. However, as long as you stay normally hydrated and have no family history of any kidney issues whatsoever, the likelihood of having altered kidney functions leading to kidney disease is not there. There is a hypothesis out there, however, there is no logical basis, biologically speaking, for having alterations in kidney functions due to the high protein meals. What about liver issues? There is some indication that a high protein diet following a carnivore style eating pattern can reduce non-alcoholic fatty acid liver issues, but may impact liver enzyme functions and liver enzyme activities in the long term. Well, thanks for joining the quick take here on the carnivore diet. More on this will be seen within the book. Thanks for watching. Please make sure you're giving us that 5-star rating. Please make sure that you are subscribed and sharing out what you are seeing and hearing on here on YouTube, on podcasts, as well as in the Substack. Please follow us on all of the various platforms that we're publishing on.